Hi, and welcome to the Cult TV Sofa. And these are my brief thoughts about Season 3 of Babylon 5. Also, don't forget you can see the full reaction videos for all of the shows I cover on my Patreon channel. See the link in the description below. First, I will just say, I don't know if you've heard, but the new reboot of the series has taken a bit of a knock. The sale of the CW network has meant a number of prospective shows have been cancelled. Babylon 5 isn't one of them, but it has been pushed back to next year. But obviously a lot can happen in a year. But at least this increases my chance of being able to get through the current show before then, hopefully. So in the first season of the show, even though Sinclair was the main character, it still felt it was more of an ensemble cast, with each getting a decent amount of screen time. It really does feel that the show has become more about Sheridan, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does change the dynamic of the show a bit. I suspect part of this is due to Bruce Boxleitner being a larger name than Michael O'Hare was, and his contract either required more screen time or they just wanted to get their money's worth out of him. We had quite a few scenes with Sheridan and Kosh. I was going to say it appeared that Kosh was becoming like a father figure to Sheridan, but actually it was more that Sheridan was becoming like a son figure to Kosh, especially as he appeared to John as his father when he was being killed by the Shadows. We saw John fully interacting with a previous storyline in War Without End. It's amazing how they were able to do that when the character of John Sheridan hadn't even been created when they made the first Babylon 4 episode, and I think it worked really well. It was great to see Sinclair return, and it really did finish off his storyline nicely. So I'm glad he was able to return for it, even though it did cause me problems with their names again. Sinclair, Sheridan, Sinclair, Sheridan. Gets me every time. We obviously saw Sheridan jump into the hole at the end of the season. Still not quite sure what the hole was. I know he survives, but I really don't know how. Nuclear-proof bungee jump rope, parachute, we shall see. I don't think Ivanova had as many big scenes this season. The only two I can really think of are when she took the White Star to find the first ones, and then when she also commanded the White Star to watch out for the Shadows in their big assault at the end of the season. I hope we have a bit more from her next season. She appears to be in command a bit more now, so hopefully that'll be utilised more. I've really felt that Garibaldi has been used less in the past two seasons than he was in Season 1. A lot of the action in the episodes has moved to the White Star, rather than the station, and Garibaldi would not usually have a reason to be on the White Star. He's never been one of my favourite characters, but he seems to be fading into the background a bit now, and I haven't enjoyed the episodes which have focused on him in particular. Case in point, he was unfortunately the star of one of my least favourite episodes, Grey 17 is Missing. Stephen Franklin has been a bit better this season. It was interesting to see his stim addiction storyline. I don't fully understand his walkabout idea. If you're going to do something like that, I would think it best to do it away from the place that's directly tied to the problems you're having. So going away and seeing other places and experiencing things makes a lot of sense to me. I know it's tricky at this time though, due to the break away from Earth. It's hard to get off the station and go to other places. I hope that we're going to see a better side of him next season after he met himself at the end of this one. We saw a lot more of Delenn this season and different sides to her. We saw how involved she was behind the scenes preparing the defense against the Shadows. We've seen the softer side of Delenn over the past few seasons, but this time we got to see her more decisive, authoritative side. The battle at Babylon 5, where they were protecting the ship that had pulled away from the Earth Alliance, gave us a great scene and speech.
Negative. We have authority here. Do not force us to engage your ship.
Why not? Only one human captain has ever survived battle with the Minbari fleet. He is behind me. You are in front of me. If you value your lives, be somewhere else.
John and Delenn have continued to grow closer, culminating with their first kiss when she showed him the fleet of white starships. We know from the future jump that John had that they have a son together, so it'll be interesting to see where and how things progress next season for them. Londo was another character that seemed to take a bit of a back seat this season, but the few episodes that he was in and sort of starred in were very memorable, and he did shine as always. We had the early episode in the season, Convictions, where G'Kar and him were trapped in the lift. The way they both bounce off each other is amazing, and their scenes are usually some of the best in the series. We saw his love, Adira, killed by the shadows. I'm still surprised that he immediately leapt to the conclusion that it was Reefer that had killed her. He didn't even seem to consider that it could have been the shadows, especially after what he had just said to Mr. Morden, so I am surprised at that. And then we have the episode where he took his revenge on Reefer. It was a well thought out, if not complicated plan. I do wish he hadn't used Veer the way he did, and I'm surprised that G'Kar went along with it as much as he did, because it could easily have been a trap for him as well, or instead of Reefer. G'Kar had quite the journey this season, from the dramatic scenes with him and Londo trapped in the elevator, to his vision from Jiquan, and his reflection when he was locked up for his assault on Londo. After Garibaldi had some words with him, G'Kar was instrumental in getting support to launch the counterattack against the Shadows, which gave them their first big win. He also helped get the Narn involved to protect the station with security. So from what we've seen so far, without him, the war would be going very differently. He's been a very key player. Veer was absent for a lot of the season, which may in part have contributed to Londo's continuing spiral. It was really horrible to see Londo use Veer the way he did to lure Lord Reefer to the Narn homeworld. We saw him be tortured telepathically, trying to protect Londo's secret, or supposed secret. On the flip side, Londo used Veer because he was the most trustworthy person he knew, and he could count on him. But that obviously doesn't make things right. Linear was, again, significantly underused this season, in my opinion. We only really saw him being used as a translator on the White Star, because somehow the Minbari still can't speak English or standard, Earth Standard, whatever they call it. We did see his more aggressive side come out, or again, assertive side, when Marcus grabbed his shoulder when Delenn was kidnapped, which is always interesting to see. The aggressive side, not Delenn being kidnapped. Zack is a likeable character. He got caught between a rock and a hard place when he got involved with the Night Watch early in the season. He didn't see how big a problem it was at first. He thought it was just a bit of extra money for not much work. Luckily, he saw how bad things were getting and helped to trap the other members, mostly removing the problem from the station. Marcus was an interesting addition to the show. He provided comic relief, action, and commitment to the cause. He also had one of my favourite lines from the show so far, when Marcus and the Doctor were captured by those alien symbiotes, and they were discussing their escape.
All we need is for one of them to leave the room. Then there'll be only one man with a gun.
Excuse me. Where I come from, one man from three leaves two.
Where I come from is a far more interesting place.
We had a couple of noteworthy shots of the station itself this season. At the end of season 2, we saw the station taking damage, and this season opened with repairs being made. I really do love those little touches and those callbacks to previous episodes, so the story does follow on. It really does add to things. And we also had that nice scene of Sheridan spacewalking and some sort of angles and view shots of the station we hadn't seen before. We got our first look at the White Star early in the season. I think she's a beautiful ship and has great abilities, such as it's obviously increased firepower, resistance to damage, and able to create its own jump points. We had some really nice scenes where we saw it up against shadow ships, using its new tech and Sheridan's tactics to defeat them. I do like their holographic displays, which are obviously used on Minbari ships as well, but I do still wonder about their practicality and use in a battle. I think visually they look impressive, but I don't know how practical they are. The season culminated with us seeing a whole fleet of white stars ready to be used to defeat the shadows. I was still confused in the big battle in the last but one episode. I do wish they'd made more of a thing of the whole fleet coming in, the white stars. They were kind of just mixed in with the other ships, and I missed them completely for ages. It was only when I was looking closely, I spotted one or two. I really wish they'd come in as a fleet. It would be much more dramatic, and it would be nice to have seen. I'm really looking forward to the next season. We've seen the war building up, and with the addition of the White Star Fleet, I know we're going to have some great action scenes and stories in Season 4. So I shall see you in the next video. Be seeing you.